Hi, my name is Alexander Kang. I'm a powerlifter in the IPF/USAPL, and I also serve as a judge, or you can call it referee, for the state of Maryland. And I have years of experience both as a lifter and a judge, so I believe I have a perspective from both to explain IPF squat depth as clearly as possible. Johnny asked for me to make a video or work with him on a video regarding IPF squat depth. And this was in light of a situation where a lifter in Canada believed that he got robbed by the judges, due to bad calls on squat depth. Okay, so let me first explain or state what the exact definition of squat depth is according to the IPF rulebook. So, quote, upon receiving the chief referee signal, the lifter must bend the knees and lower the body until the top surface of the legs at the hip joint is lower than the top of the knees. So that is the quote from the IPF rulebook. So we're going to be showing different angles of Johnny squatting, and we'll mark with a red dot where the crease of the hip is and where the top of the knee is. So it's not so clear cut when you're determining squat depth, especially if you don't have a lot of experience or you don't have a lot of experience judging. So it can be a complex process because judging squat depth is the hardest task for a judge. So it's very important that the judge has a clear understanding, I believe also from a lifting standpoint, what good legal squat depth is in the IPF. So it's very important that you view this video with an open mind, because this is exactly how the IPF will judge the depth. So you're going to see the crease of the hip and also the top of the knee. And also, this perception is subjective even between judges in the IPF and USAPL. So I'm just displaying my standpoint of what legal squat depth is. So you're going to be strictly looking at the crease of the hip and the top of the knee. Okay, so in relation, the top of the knee has to be higher than the hip joint. So you'll be able to draw a straight line to see if that plane is broken. So there's nowhere in the rule book that states, oh, you have to squat well below parallel, convincingly deep, 1 inch below parallel. You just have to break the plane, okay? And that's all you need. And that's actually clearly displayed on the IPF rulebook, where there's actually a diagram where the depth is displayed. So when you look at the actual diagram of the rulebook, you'll notice that it just breaks parallel. So I mean, it's just past that plane where the top of the knee is and where the hip crease is. So again, you don't have to go any deeper than that. But again, perception is different between judges. So again, it's not so clear cut. But in general, there is a general accepted sense of what squat depth is. So we'll be reviewing that on a later segment in the video, where I'm actually going to be viewing the squat depth when Johnny's doing his squats in a singlet. So let me start off by explaining that obviously there are 3 judges. So you have the head judge, and the head judge's main responsibility is to call the commands. So he'll say squat and rack, and the head judge isn't really responsible for looking at squat depth unless the squat depth is egregious. So let's say the head judge still views the hip crease and notices that the hip crease in no way could have broken that plane, then they will give a red light. But that responsibility is more suited to the side judges. So again, the head judge will give a white even if it looks questionable on his or her end. But the real judges are on the sides where they have a direct view of squat depth. So viewing squat depth is not reliable from the front. Oftentimes when you see a squat that you may deem to be in, it may be parallel or high from the sides, just because of how a squat is viewed from the front. Okay, so again, I want to do that point over again, where the head judge is not his or her primary responsibility is not judging squat depth, and they can only give out a red light if the depth is egregious and they can still view the hip crease from the front. So by that means it's definitely high. So the side judges are very crucial in determining squat depth. So you'll notice that a lot of times you'll see a red, a white, and a red. So that means the center judge has given a white, again, because from their view that they think the depth is good, but the side judges will view that the squat depth was not good. So they'll be looking at to see if the lifter breaks that plane, okay? And they should be situated directly on the side. I'm not a fan of looking at squat depth from the back or a 3/4 view. I always go directly from the side. So if I'm not in a position to view depth from the exact side, I move myself to see if that plane is broken. Okay, so it's very important that you notice that the side judges are the real purveyors of squat depth. Okay, and again, it's going to be subjective from their standpoint, but again, it's objective from the rule book to see if that plane is broken. Okay, so we got that cleared. So again, the side judges are the main purveyors of squat depth, and those judges are the true determinants of if your squat gets passed or not. So those are the three rules. Okay, and some lifters, they may believe that their squat was good and they want to protest the squat. So what do? In national or big meets, there will be a 3-person jury. But if you have a small local meet, the likelihood that you have a jury is very low. So if you're at, for example, a regional, national, or international meet, there will be a 3-man jury. And what the coach needs to do, or what the lifter needs to do, is they need to immediately protest the squat, and they have to go to the jury's table. And if the jury reaches a consensus that the squat is good, then they'll overturn the squat call. But in those cases are very rare, and sometimes even the jury will overrule a good squat to be a bad squat. So again, it can go both ways, but that's the procedure that you have to follow. Immediately after your squat, you have to protest the squat by either your coach or yourself going to the jury's table and protesting the squat call, the depth call. So the next point that I want to go over is local versus international depth. So technically, local, state, regional, national, international, all those calls should be uniform and consistent. However, you won't get the benefit of the doubt when you go to a national or international meet, because you're competing against the best, and obviously the best know how to break that plane, or how low they have to go in the squat. So technically, it has to be the same from local to international, but again, it's not always the case, because you will not get the benefit of the doubt at a national or an international meet. Okay, so I also want to go over raw and equipped lifting. So the thing is about that, if you have an equipped lifter, obviously the equipped lifter, they can't go as low as a raw lifter. So for example, a raw lifter can go ATG, they can bottom out their squats, but if you're wearing a squat suit, you're really limited as far as how deep you can go. So many times, actually from my personal experience, when I'm squatting equipped with raw lifters, because the perception is skewed, you have all the raw lifters going, ass to grass, or you're bottoming out on their squats, and me, I'm just breaking the plane. I may be given red lights just because I'm not following the perception of the rest of the group. So, it has to be, for my recommendation, you have to, or you should squat with lifters that have the same equipment or are raw, and again, that's the most fair way to have your depth judged, because you don't want to have the judge's perception skewed on one end, and even though you're breaking parallel or breaking that plane, that you get robbed from a good or from a fair squat call. So again, the requirements are exactly the same for raw versus equipped. But you'll notice that when you go to an equipped meet, it's more of breaking the plane versus raw going well below parallel. How you squat, either raw or equipped, the standard is the same. But again, I would say for an equipped meet, it's more along the lines of breaking the plane, and you have a lot of raw lifters going ass to grass. Again, they're well below the actual standard, but you may be judged according to how the group squats. So just be careful on that. And favoritism in the IPF, I wouldn't say there is too much favoritism. If there is any, if any exists, it may be on the local level. But how this is managed at an international meet, you actually have referees from all different nationalities judging. So in that sense, it eliminates favoritism. And also, you have the jury. They'll have a jury member from each country. So you'll have a diverse set of countries represented on both the referee level, the 3 referees on the platform, and the 3 referees on the jury table. So again, that's how favoritism is eliminated for the most part on when you go to the big stage. But again, if you have a small meet where you have the same recurring judges, you have the same lifters, they'll know in general if you have if you squat to depth or not. So again, you don't want to get a reputation of squatting high or parallel because again, you'll be scrutinized more closely. And the worst thing is if you go to a squat or to a competition and you're squatting parallel, you keep increasing the weight and you keep squatting higher, or you don't squat to depth on the opener, and then you'll be scrutinized more carefully. And that's just human nature. That's not someone being a jerk or trying to screw you. It's just human nature that you will be scrutinized more if you don't squat to depth on the initial opener. So they'll be watching you, and hopefully you don't increase your attempt and keep the attempt the same, and then you go deeper, and then you wouldn't have a problem regarding squat depth. But again, you do not want to screw yourself by going parallel, or especially if you're a new lifter, when you do a competition and try to pass your squat depth as legal. So again, if you want to be safe, go below parallel. Okay, and the last point I want to review is how to become a judge. So there's 2 parts in becoming a judge. Number 1 is a practical, which I think is the most important, and number 2 is a written test. So I'm just saying this from the perspective of a referee in the USAPL. The practical test, you have to judge 99 lifts, and you have to get a certain percentage point, I believe something over 90%, to match what the chair gets. So you'll be seated in different chairs, so side chairs or the head chair, and your calls have to match the call of the referee on the platform. So again, you have to score a high percentage point on that, and then you have to take a open book written test, and you have to score above 90% on that test. So it's 2 parts, and I believe the practical is more important. And I think the fault with the practical is the fact that you can be judging openers to third attempts. So naturally, again, this is just human nature. You probably won't be going as deep as you can on the third attempt versus the opener. So, but from that standpoint, I don't think the test is good. However, just to remain consistent, you're going to be judging 33 squats, 33 benches, and 33 deadlifts, and that will range from the opener, second attempt to third attempt. And then you will have the written test, which is quite lengthy. So it'll go over lifting standards, drug testing procedures, and any other aspect of lifting, lot number, etc. So you really have to be prepared and have all your materials ready when you're doing the open book test. So hopefully that's a little more helpful, and hopefully it clears some air on IPF squat depth. But we will have a video showing Johnny squatting and also pinpointing where the crease of the hip is and the top of the knee is, to give additional clarification on IPF squat depth. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. As mentioned in the other segment, here is the portion where we are actually going to look at Johnny's squats. So Johnny presented me with 6 different scenarios, and they're both available in real time and also slow motion, 120 frames per second. So let's go ahead and view the first squat. Okay, so looking and regular speed, that was fine. Then here, I'm going to pause it. So you see the hip crease is below the top of the knee just barely. So that would be a good squat. And two other indications that we can tell is the downward sweep of the quad and also if there's some tailbone tuck or butt wink. So here, that was a little iffy, and looking in slow motion, we're going to pause it here. I was a little generous with the dot on the hip, but it wouldn't really matter because if you align them, they are about parallel. So again, that squat would be either no good, or if the judge was generous, he would get the squat call. So this is number 3, and you see here again the downward sweep of the quad, and also the slight butt wink or the tailbone tuck. And again, there's the crease of the hip and the top of the knee. So that is a good squat. And again, it will show the plane broken at that point. So here is squat number 4, and this squat, let's see here, that was deep. So that was a deep squat, perfectly safe for national or international competition. And we're going to freeze the frame here, and you see here how low the hip crease is compared to the top of the knee. So again, this would be no question at a national or international meet. So here is squat number 5, and again, this is fairly deep. So that was the regular motion. Here's the slow motion. I'm going to freeze it there. And again, the hip crease and the top of the knee, also the downward slope of the quad, the downward sweep, and also the slight butt wink or tailbone tuck. Okay, and here is the final clip. Again, very deep. So we're going to do slow motion and pause it. And you see here the crease of the hip is well below the top of the knee. Again, the downward quad sweep and also the slight butt wink. So hopefully that sheds some light on what IPF depth is. And again, this is by no means a definitive guide, but again, it's from a standpoint of a lifter who has lifted in the IPF and also who has judged at the state level in the USAPL, which is an IPF affiliate. So thanks again, guys, and thanks for watching.